Hello and welcome. Now, hearing in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case at the International Court of Justice at The Hague has concluded for the day. India's former Solicitor General Harish Salve is representing India in the case. Until now, the Indian side's argument has stuck to what was expected. It has accused Pakistan of violating the Vienna Convention. India reiterated the fact that India was repeatedly denied consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav. Harish Salve also raised the manner in which Jadhav's family was treated when they were allowed to meet him on the 25th of December 2017. Salve said, and I quote, "India was dismayed at the manner the meeting with Jadhav's family was conducted and wrote a letter on the 27th December marking its protest," unquote.
An Indian was detained, purportedly arrested, a confession extracted, then he was tried and convicted by a military court, awarded death sentence. And all along, requests for consular access were rejected. This, quite plainly, is an egregious breach of Article 36.
India had moved the International Court of Justice in May 2017 against the farcical trial by the military court of Pakistan against 48-year-old Jadhav. Kulbhushan Jadhav, a retired Indian Navy officer, was sentenced to death by a Pakistani military court on charges of espionage and terrorism in April 2017. All right, for more in the story, I'm now joined by KTS Tulsi, Senior Advocate in India's top court. Mr. Tulsi, thank you for joining us on WION World is One. Does India have a watertight case in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case at the ICJ? And in your estimation, is Pakistan in violation of the Vienna Convention?
With regard to the first question, I think it is Mr. Salve who is qualified to answer that, because he has possession of the entire material that was relied upon in the course of trial. And with regard to the second question, Vienna Convention, there were 17 requests for consular access which were denied. And the one which was permitted was also in clear violation of the Vienna Convention. If you will recall, Mr. Jadhav's family, that is mother and wife, were asked to remove their Mangal Sutra and bangles and bindi before going into the chamber where the interview was to take place through the partition of glass. They were asked to change their clothes. They were prevented from talking in mother tongue. The wife's shoes were not returned. The Deputy High Commissioner was allowed to join them after much persuasion. And you see, there was clearly a lot of psychological trauma that was writ large on his face, having been on the death row for more than a year. And he seemed to suffer from Stockholm Syndrome. And that is why he wouldn't say anything against his captors.
Mr. Tulsi, what kind of precedent might this case set for India-Pakistan relations, and also how might it impact the relations going forward if the verdict goes either way?
I don't think this is going to have such an impact on the relations. This is a judicial process to which both parties have submitted themselves, and I'm sure either of the countries against whom the decision goes will accept it in good grace.
And one last question, Mr. Tulsi. In your estimation, does the fact that India moved the ICJ demolish the myth that India is afraid of internationalizing the Kashmir issue or India's ties with Pakistan on such sensitive issues?
You see, those are very complex issues which involve hundreds and thousands of or lakhs of people. Whereas this is a crime either way. Either our case is that he was kidnapped from Iran and then brought there in breach of the Vienna Convention, and they are accusing him of being a spy. Now, the burden is on them to establish the documents which would establish that he is a spy. If he is not, then obviously he has been framed. And I think the International Court of Justice will certainly go into the entire evidence that has been used in the course of the trial, and then arrived at an independent conclusion as to whether it establishes the guilt of the charge with which Kulbhushan Jadhav is accused of.
All right, on that note, Ms. KTS Tulsi, thank you for joining us on WION World is One. Appreciate it. Right, moving on. Now, 4 days after the dastardly Pulwama attack, Indian forces eliminated the masterminds behind the blast that killed 40 CRPF personnel. In a joint operation, the forces blasted a terrorist shelter in Pulwama's Pinglan area, killing top Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists and key Pulwama conspirators Abdul Ghazi and Kamran Hilal. The house was located near the highway where the CRPF convoy was attacked on the 14th of February. 4 Indian Army personnel, including a major, were martyred in the encounter. A lieutenant colonel, a captain and 2 soldiers were also injured. All the martyred army men belonged to the 55 Rashtriya Rifles. A civilian was also killed in the gunfight, which began in the wee hours of Monday. The operation in the Pinglan area in Pulwama began after Indian Armed Forces, comprising the Army, CRPF and Jammu and Kashmir Police, launched a cordon and search operation after getting information about the presence of the terrorists in the area. The armed forces have expanded the search operations since. A cordon and search operation was launched in Pulwama's neighboring district of Shopian. Meanwhile, during his joint briefing with Argentine President Mauricio Macri, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the world needed to unite against terrorism.
मैं और राष्ट्रपति माक्री इस बात पर सहमत है कि आतंकवाद वैश्विक शांति और स्थिरता के लिए बहुत बड़ा गंभीर खतरा है। पुलवामा में हुआ क्रूर आतंकवादी हमला यह दिखाता है कि अब बातों का समय निकल चुका है। अब सारी दुनिया को आतंकवाद और उसके समर्थकों के विरुद्ध एकजुट होकर ठोस कदम उठाने की आवश्यकता है। आतंकवादियों और उसके मानवता विरोधी समर्थकों के खिलाफ कार्यवाही से हिचकना भी आतंकवाद को बढ़ावा देना ही है। G20 देशों के तौर पर यह भी महत्वपूर्ण है कि हम आतंकवाद का मुकाबला करने पर हैम्बर्ग लीडर स्टेटमेंट के 11 सूत्री एजेंडा को कार्यान्वित करें।
Earlier in the day, Home Minister Rajnath Singh said that the morale of the forces was high.
हमारे सेना और सुरक्षा के जवानों का मनोबल इस समय ऊंचा है और आप देख रहे हैं कि वह आतंकवादियों को न्यूट्रलाइज करने में कामयाबी हासिल कर रहे हैं।
All right, I'm now joined by General Ved Prakash Malik, a former chief of the Indian Army. General Malik, thank you for joining us on WION Dispatch. Now, earlier this afternoon, we were told that the Indian forces have eliminated the masterminds of the Pulwama attack, the 2 terrorists belonging to the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Some would say these are just deserts for the terrorists. But is that the end of the road insofar as Pulwama is concerned, or what happens next? Does India continue to put diplomatic, political pressure on Pakistan, or also possibly explore other kinetic options? General Malik?
Firstly, I wouldn't call these 2 people, Ghazi and Kamran, to be the mastermind. Frankly speaking, the mastermind lives in Pakistan. And he is controlled by the ISI, which is really speaking part of Pakistan Army. And this has been a a proxy war which has been going on for more than 30 years. Yes, we will be able to avenge the death of our 44 soldiers and even some who have died this morning today at the moment, but I don't think we can call that to be the end of our kinetic action or any other action. I believe this is a proxy war which has been going on for a long time, and if you want to put a stop to it, then we have to adopt a long-term strategy, more comprehensive, which includes political, diplomatic, military, economic, in fact all aspects. And I think we should now continue with a long-term strategy, define it properly, and we should take the whole nation with us, including all the opposition parties, we should oppose this solidly as a nation, with no divisions in our politics or in our ethnic societies or in our other societies. It has to be taken up as a war issue now.
General Malik, over the last 5 days, we've heard from several analysts, former generals, who have spoken about imposing costs on the perpetrators of terrorism and their handlers inside Pakistan, and words such as strategy, doctrine, tactic, serious rethink have been said in the last 4 or 5 days. If I were to ask you, General Malik, what did we or what did India do wrong all these years or decades, and what kind of changes do you propose going forward in order to accomplish the goal or the aim of imposing costs on the perpetrators?
I think primarily the fault lies in not following a consistent policy. We have been varying our policy towards Pakistan and even inside Kashmir. And we have not kept the national security issue before our political ideologies within the country. This kind of a war, proxy war or a hybrid war, it requires a consistent long-term policy to be coordinated with all the institutions of the nations. I think the primary fault has been that we have not followed a consistent policy over last so many years.
Also, General Malik, very quickly, we've spoken about the domestic dimension of the crisis at hand. What about the external dimension? Specifically talking about some countries in our neighborhood, especially China. What do you make of China's position or reluctance to call Pakistan's bluff on the issue of terrorism? Now, we've heard of this phrase that India is prepared for a two-front war, but this instance, metaphorically, is again a two-front war. Why? Because China seems to be reluctant to put pressure or to lean on Pakistan or to allow India's motion to designate Masood as a terrorist pass in the UN. So what do you make of this situation obtaining in our neighborhood, especially regards to Pakistan and China?
There is no doubt that today Pakistan and China, they have strategic alliance. But as far as terrorism aspect is concerned, I don't think they are together. And this is one area which we should be exploiting, and we declare this to be a war against terrorism. I have no doubt that China will also understand. At the moment, we all know that China has been supporting Pakistan on Masood Azhar in the United Nations. But that pressure we have to keep on China and all other nations, through the nations, in the United Nations and elsewhere, so that Chinese also understand. Because I believe personally that this is a threat not only to India, this kind of terrorism can be a threat to China also. In any case, China is already suffering this kind of threat within their own area from the Uyghur community and those who are supporting Uyghur terrorism.
But why is India seen to be diffident when it comes to China? We've spoken about a one China policy all these years. Now we seem to have been indicating that we no longer pursue that policy. Tibet is an outstanding issue, so is Taiwan, so is Xinjiang. So my question to you, General, is why does India seem to be different when it comes to tackling the problem head-on and on its own, without having to seek help from external friends or powers, so to speak?
A good question, but frankly, India wants to avoid a two-front war, and that is the reason, even though we have so many issues under our own which are important and where we can play, but because we do not want to have a two-front war in future, and that is why we have been also following the policy of appeasement to China. But as I said earlier, that this particular issue of terrorism, it requires a greater thrust in our dialogue with China and also with the international community. Even if China doesn't want to listen to us, I think it will have to listen to the United Nations and other international nations.
And finally, General Malik, very quickly, I want you to take a step back and reflect on India's policy towards Pakistan and its other neighbors. Now, India sees itself as among the oldest victims of terrorism, dating back to the insurgency and terrorism that raised its head in the late 80s in Jammu and Kashmir at the behest and aided and abetted by Pakistan. This was long before the 2001 attacks in New York. Again, India mooted the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism in the UN in 1996, again before the attacks in New York. Then we had the Mumbai attacks in 2008, Pathankot, Uri in 2016, and now Pulwama in 2019. Has India and the Indian policymakers not learned their lesson? Should we as a nation, as a government, as an army, as a polity get our act together?
You know, Pakistan has been following this policy even before we partitioned it from East Pakistan. Before East Pakistan, before Bangladesh came about, even then they were following this policy of supporting our terror groups, insurgency groups in the northeast. So it's been going on for a very long time. And you are right that probably we are the worst victims of their terrorism in this region. We have to understand that Pakistan wants to destabilize us. That has been a consistent policy of Pakistan and Pakistan Army. In fact, that is one reason why Pakistan Army will not give it up, making us as an enemy. And they will continue to, because that gives them the status, that gives them the position that they have, political and economic, in Pakistan. So I think we have failed in our long-term policies as far as Pakistan is concerned. We should have realized all along that Pakistan is not going to change its policy, and I don't foresee it changing the policy. And therefore, there is a requirement for us also to follow a consistent, long-term, comprehensive policy when we are dealing with Pakistan.
All right. On that note, General V.P. Malik, thank you for joining us on WION Dispatch. Appreciate it. As you heard there, General Malik saying India needs to devise and formulate a comprehensive policy, a strategy to deal with the crisis at hand. Right. Moving on, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is in Pakistan on a two-day visit. In fact, he just concluded his visit just a few minutes ago. And Pakistan has announced that the Crown Prince has agreed to free 2,107 Pakistani prisoners languishing in Saudi jails with immediate effect. On Sunday night, Saudi Arabia signed agreements with Pakistan worth $20 billion. The investment agreements include a $10 billion refinery and petrochemicals complex in the coastal city of Gwadar, where China is building a deep-sea port. The Crown Prince also held talks with the Pakistani Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa.
MOUs we've signed on petrochemicals, minerals, agriculture is one area, food processing is another area, But, we have CPAC, we have links with China, we have very close now connectivity with probably what is the biggest market in the world, which is China. So we welcome Saudi Arabia to participate with us. It's an exciting future. Saudi Arabia has always been a friend for Pakistan. Saudi Arabia has been a friend when Pakistan has needed friends. So Saudi Arabia has always been a friend in need, which is why we value it so much.
A lot of heritage, we have amazing nature, we have great people, we have infrastructure, we have stability, we have everything. We have even the financing and the money to invest in that area. So we will work with Pakistan in all of these things, economically, politically, and security. And we will be sure that we are creating amazing, great future for Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and for our region.
The Saudi royal was received by Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan in a red carpet welcome at the Chaklala military airport in the garrison city of Rawalpindi. Khan drove the Saudi Crown Prince to the Prime Minister's house from the airport. All right, joining me live from Pakistan is my colleague Anas Malik. Good evening, Anas. The Saudi Crown Prince has just concluded his less than 24-hour stay in Pakistan. What are the takeaways from that visit and how important was his visit for Pakistan?
Well, certainly in terms of the achievability of this visit, Pakistani side terms it as a very successful visit by and large by the Saudi Crown Prince here in Islamabad. He just concluded his visit roughly for about, it was about a 21 to 22 hour visit. But the takeaways are that Pakistan has signed 8 MOUs and Saudi Arabia is willing to do, has announced of doing investment worth $20 billion. Pakistani Prime Minister in return had asked the Saudi Crown Prince to ease off or to consider laying off those punishments of Pakistani prisoners in Saudi prisons. And in the morning earlier today, we saw the announcement of about 2,107 prisoners being pardoned by the Saudi Crown Prince. In addition to that, the Pakistani Prime Minister had also asked about the immigration of Pakistani Hajis and with regards that perhaps the Saudi Crown Prince can grant some ease to them as well. And now we're hearing reports that the Saudi Crown Prince has agreed and ordered that the immigration of the Pakistani Hajis, those who go for Hajj, the Hajj pilgrimage, should be done here in Pakistan before they fly for Saudi Arabia. In addition to that, the joint statement is something that is very critical over here because the Pakistani side, it has been issued from the Pakistani Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It says that the Saudi Crown Prince has acknowledged and appreciated the efforts of the Pakistani Prime Minister, and he has again emphasized on a dialogue with India. He said that outstanding issues can only be resolved through dialogue, and the Pakistani side's press release, which says it's a joint press statement, it says that the Saudi Crown Prince has also appreciated Pakistan's initiative to open to the Kartarpur crossing point. So clearly the Pakistani side does seem very happy because they've done a lot of agreements with regards to bilateral cooperation and that $20 billion worth investment. Something that is very critical over here is, or something that is to be noted over here is, Ramesh, is the fact that the Saudi Foreign Minister Adil Al-Zubair, addressing a press conference earlier today, he said that this is not charity. His words were something that was noteworthy. When I asked him about Pakistan, India-Pakistan dispute, he said that Saudi Arabia would play its role and would want to try to de-escalate the ongoing tensions between the two neighboring countries while referring to Pakistan and India. And he also said that dialogue is the only way forward. So Saudi Arabia also on the same lines, because we saw this visit coming in line just after that Pulwama attack, and it was delayed by a day as well. It was hit by a lot of controversies, that delay, because the government of Pakistan is yet to come out in the open and explain the reasons behind those delays. We were hearing reports that the Saudi Crown Prince was likely to meet the Afghan Taliban as well, but the Taliban at the 11th hour had backed out from coming to Islamabad. Therefore, that meeting could not take place. The Prime Minister hosted him last night at a dinner ceremony at the Prime Minister's house. Earlier in the morning as well, they had breakfast together. So by and large, large, the Pakistani government and in fact the opposition as well, they are on one page with regards to this visit and the achievement that they've achieved through this visit. Yes, Ramesh.
Right. On that note, Anas, thank you. That was my colleague Anas Malik on the just concluded visit of the Saudi Crown Prince to Pakistan. Now, Saudi Arabia has vowed to wind down tensions between India and Pakistan during a high-profile summit in Islamabad. The resolve from Saudi Arabia comes as Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman prepares to conclude his two-day visit. The development comes as diplomatic rift between India and Pakistan has touched a new low following Friday's dastardly terror attack that led to the killing of 40 Indian personnel.